Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Whiteboard Wednesdays with Werner. And we also have Richard with us, who's going to be our expert for the day. He's also an expert for other days, but today he's our expert. So welcome Richard for joining us.
Thanks, Van.
And continuing our discussion about data protection. Our previous episode we spoke about protecting data at scale. We spoke about, we've got this kind of thread going around the kind of archetypes of data. We've got our data of record, transactional data. We've got our data of analytics, and then also our metadata.
And metadata, yeah.
Yeah, the data that describes how the other...
Pieces fit together, yeah.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And then we also started touching on some of the challenges at scale, right? We explained, backing up one laptop is, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But backing up a data center full of thousands of servers with, another bunch of thousands of virtual machines and, start working in the cloud and all that type of thing.
Yeah.
Challenges.
It's a new animal.
Yeah, it's a whole different ball game, right?
Yeah.
And then also, not just in that kind of structure, but the different types of data that we have to deal with. We spoke about, dealing with millions or billions of small files, and also dealing with massive files, right? Maybe one file that's huge in size, and the different approaches to that. So for today, we want to address those challenges, and explore with the audience the various technologies that exist that helps us to manage all of those elements, right?
Yeah.
And really, it all falls under the umbrella of, you can't eat this elephant all at once, so we have to turn it into a smaller little elephant or into small little elephants. I don't know, eat it small, something. There's some analogy there. So it's really about data reduction. And that's our topic for today, is applying data reduction technologies to these problems, right? Or to these challenges in terms of scale. And then, take it from there. So I think the first one, a lot of people will be familiar with compressing their data.
Yes, yeah.
And then there's, on the other side, there's actually what a technology called deduplication, or a concept of deduplicating your data.
Yeah.
So perhaps, as our resident expert, would you mind explaining the difference between those two concepts to our audience? Because I'm not going to be able to do it.
I'll certainly give it a go. So I think, everyone understands the concept of compression.
Yes.
And compression, for the most part, is the idea of taking an object, a thing, taking out everything from it that's unnecessary or less relevant, and leaving just what's left to rebuild that information. Now, there's a myriad of ways you can do that, but for the interests of today's discussion, let's just consider that it's almost like deflating a balloon in a way.
Yeah.
Your balloon, you can have a full balloon. If you deflate it, take it to another room and inflate it, you've effectively used the idea of compression. You've made it smaller to move it, and then you made it bigger on the other side. What makes that balloon valid and relevant is the plastic and the rubber in the balloon's materials, not the air.
Yeah.
So you can take the air out. That's how you can do compression.
Very good analogy. I like balloons, and the Americans are shooting them down these days.
True. And I have 2-year-olds, so I have thousands of them all over the place.
There you go.
Then the other idea, which is one of the other concepts that we'd like to sort of talk about, and this, what we want to differentiate against, is the idea of data reduction.
Yeah.
Now, more specifically, deduplication.
Yes.
Now, in the name, you might have guessed, but the concept is actually quite simple. If I have one file, let's say a Word document, and that Word document has, it's a template document, and in that template we provide it to our salespeople, and when they onboard a customer, they will fill in the name and the surname and the phone number of that customer, and they save that document. If I now give that same template to another salesperson, and that salesperson does the same thing for their customer, we've got two nearly identical copies of the same document.
Correct.
Other than the differences being those few details within the document.
Yes.
So, with that in mind, if we are to say, well, let's keep one copy of the template and just keep record of the few differences between those two documents.
So the unique data.
Now, and we'll come back to this term metadata, we have to store a note that says, when I'm building this customer's document, I need a copy of the template and his unique data applied to the top of it.
Okay, so almost like a map that explains, how to rebuild that document.
Exactly.
So, and we can create clones of, those documents when we need them.
Exactly.
But we actually only store one copy and the unique data.
One copy of the unique data and a little bit of map.
So effectively what we've done there is reduce the total amount of data that we need to store, right? So instead of it being a 10 terabyte file, because we've got multiple, copies of this, we can actually store, let's say, one giga file, right? And a small map that takes up, a
relatively tiny proportion of space.
So, I mean, those are pretty good concepts. And I think in terms of, the technologies that data sciences, uses, all of our brands, if you think about Pure, Vast, Commvault, HydraStore, pretty much every single data platform technology that we use or that we provide has some form of data reduction technology embedded into it, or is actually core to that whole platform, right? And really the idea is that when we make a backup, so in terms of data protection, right, we have to move that from its primary source. We have to move the data from its primary source to a secondary location. So, the idea comes in that if we reduce that amount of data that you actually have to move, it's less traffic.
Yeah. So it's less network traffic. Obviously, the data itself that we've reduced is now smaller, so we need less capacity on the source and the destination.
Yep.
And we've reduced the amount of traffic we need to send, because now instead of 10 gigs, it's 1 gig, and we send that 1 gig over the wire. All of a sudden,
much quicker,
much faster transfer, much faster recoveries,
and efficient.
Yeah. And this
the recovery,
is
much faster. Good point.
So all of these principles are really, really important in this data protection journey.
So we can actually then say, if you are looking at a holistic data protection strategy, regardless of the data type that you're using, you will be utilizing data reduction technologies as a first step before you protecting that data, right? So especially at scale, we're not talking about just one laptop, we're talking your entire data center, your business data.
Yes.
How you implement those technologies is what we're going to be discussing in our next episode. So thank you very much for our quick discussion around data reduction technologies and why they are so relevant and important in a comprehensive data protection strategy. Thank you so much, and thank you, Richard, for joining us today again. And we'll see you guys next time. Please don't forget to like, share, and follow our LinkedIn page.